Okay, so Rihanna did an interview recently and she shared with Harper's Bazaar that Anti is the only album of hers that she can listen to without feeling shame. So she says, I used to always have shame. I actually don't like listening to my music, but Anti, I can listen to the album. It's like, it's not me singing it if I'm just listening to it. That's the one album that I can have an Autobot experience where it's not like, you know, when you hear your voice in a voicemail and it's like, ugh. So I thought that that was kind of interesting because I thought Rihanna has a lot of other albums that are worth listening to and adding to that collection. Like Loud is a really great album for that time. I'm not really big on that EDM kind of era music, but Loud, it gets a pass. So that was a great album, okay? And then I also really enjoyed Good Girl Gone Bad. That had a great collection of singles, so you could add that to the conversation as well. And so, yeah, I'm kind of shocked that Anti is the only album that she can listen to without feeling shame. It kind of just seems like she's grown so much artistically, and that kind of feels like the album that's most her. I believe she was involved in writing all the songs and stuff like that. And so maybe she likes all of her other albums and stuff like that, but this kind of got me inspired to talk about artists who don't like their own albums and kind of the reasons behind it, because I think it's so interesting when an artist looks back. It's like, actually, the album wasn't for me, and there's so many different things, but let's kind of get into that. So Mariah actually is not that fond of her 90s discography, and so here's kind of the reasons why. So for the debut, she wanted to have more involvement on the production side. She basically said she wasn't allowed to kind of get more involved in it in the way that she would have liked, and what she was involved in, she didn't get credited for. So that's kind of her thing there. On Someday, she didn't like how it was produced and things like that. So I think she just wanted to be more involved in terms of the production and stuff like that. And when she got to the Emotions album, and she said, you know, we kind of just focused on, you know, the vocals and all that stuff. We didn't use computers. Like, she was shading the fuck out of them. She did not give a fuck. She was pissed what they did at the debut album, okay? But unfortunately, Emotions underperformed for her standards. I think it still sold 8 million worldwide. It had a #1 single, but when your debut sells 15 million worldwide and you have 4 #1 singles, and underperformed for her standards. It didn't help that Tommy Mottola was taking Can't Let Go of the Shells right when it was about to go #1, okay? He really irritates me, and fuck Tommy Mottola. So yeah, I think she kind of doesn't go up for Emotions just because it underperformed for her standards and everything like that. I think that's what it is, but Emotions was a great album. It was a great album, okay? And so whenever we're getting to Music Box, I have said this, I think the album was whitewashed. I did a video on my main YouTube channel, Anastasia25. It's called How Mariah Carried the 90s, and I will try to link that below if you're watching this on YouTube. But I basically explained why I think that this album was whitewashed and talking about the promo behind it. And basically, I just feel like it was the after effects of Emotions underperforming for her standards and everything. I feel like if she was able to make the album that she wanted to, it would have been a different album, because this album is very ballad heavy and everything like that. I think she even said in the 90s that she wasn't really liking Music Box a lot. Like, she carried some of her albums and Music Box never made the cut. At least I read that somewhere. And I did hear this interview that she did, and I forget like where it was, but she said it's not like I don't like the Music Box album. So maybe it's grown on her perhaps, but she has said in the past she didn't care for it. I think she does like the Christmas album actually, and she had great stuff like Miss You Most at Christmas Time, All I Want for Christmas Is You was an original. So I think that she actually does like this album. Daydream, she's essentially said she's split on this album, okay, because she was going through a lot with her marriage to Tommy Mottola. He was very controlling towards her, and her book, she discusses all that stuff and everything like that, and something that I also talk about in my video and everything. And so yeah, she's just kind of going through it a lot in her personal life. If you look to stuff like Looking In, she discusses that and everything. So I really think it's that, and just how much Tommy was trying to control her and her music and everything. Like, she had to fight so hard to be able to do what she wanted. So I think that that's kind of the thing and everything like that. But I'm sure that there's songs that she still loves on the album. Like she said, Underneath the Stars is her favorite song of hers. She loves Butterfly Down. She loves Butterfly Down. The 25th anniversary of Butterfly. Yeah, it was a moment. It was a moment. She loves Butterfly. This was the first album where she was really able to do everything that she wanted to, production-wise and everything like that. Her songwriting on here, I always say it's her artistic peak. You know, there's a lot of great songs in here. I was just listening to this album. So Honey, 4th of July, Breakdown, Outside, etc. But she loves Butterfly, okay? Rainbow, what happened with Rainbow essentially was that she had to record the album in 3 months. She was trying to get out of her contract because they said she had to do 7 albums or something like that. They didn't count the Christmas album, okay? So she rushed to get it out because she was tired of being under Tommy and Sony. So she said that she doesn't really go up for the Rainbow album, essentially, you know. So yeah, I think she said she likes some of the songs for it, but yeah, that's kind of her perspective there. So that's kind of her 90s discography. Glitter has grown on her, okay? Glitter has grown on her and everything. She went through a lot in that era and everything. But yeah, that's kind of why she doesn't go up for the 90s albums. I think a lot of it was just how controlled she was by the record label and things that she was going through personally. So that's kind of the essence, what I picked up from her interviews and everything like that. She tends to favor her 2000s discography more than her 90s discography. A lot of fans feel the same way. If I had to pick, I probably like her 90s albums better, but I don't think Mariah has a bad album, but just something I thought was worth sharing. Janet Jackson doesn't really go up for her Discipline album, actually. And so the reason for this was she wanted to tour, and they basically said, you have to release a new album, like you have to do it. And so they basically made her release this album. She doesn't really go up for it. She wasn't involved in it a whole lot, which is kind of odd because this album feels a lot more like Janet to me than 20YO, which is something that I always say. 20YO, she was involved in that, but I think Jermaine Dupri ruined it. And I like Jermaine Dupri as a producer. Him and Janet, most of the stuff that they did together isn't good, and I believe that he's the one who ruined 20YO, but that's a combo for a different day. But yeah, Janet didn't really go for Discipline. They made her do it because she wanted to, so she doesn't really like this album, but I think it's decent. I think it's decent. And then I thought that this was interesting. Shout out to Calvin Michaels on YouTube, but this was during the fan mail era, I believe. And so I think it's Left Eye. She said she didn't really care for the album at the time, okay? And she said, I cannot stand 100% behind this TLC project and the music that is supposed to represent me. This will be my last interview until I can speak freely about the truth and present myself on my solo project. So wow, she was saying at the time, I don't fuck with this album. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Paul McCartney, he said that he doesn't really like the Beatles album Let It Be and everything, and he had a song called The Long and Winding Road, and so with that record, he wanted it to kind of be more stripped back, him the piano essentially, and then Phil Spector, he had this whole thing of wall of sound production, so he kind of filled it out more with like additional vocals and an orchestra. Paul McCartney didn't really want that. He didn't have a say. He just did it without his permission, so he was mad about that and everything, and I think even George Harrison and like other people on the album said like the album was overproduced. They didn't really like it. So what Paul McCartney did, he took it a step further and he released an album called Let It Be Naked, which is just the whole album stripped back, and when you listen to it, it's significantly better. Okay, stuff like Across the Universe, the stripped back version is so much better. I just hate what he did with the production on it. So yeah, I would agree with Paul McCartney, especially The Long and Winding Road. It didn't need other production. The message and the sadness, it kind of gets buried in how grandiose the production is, so I would agree with him on that. Something I'll also say is every single Miley Cyrus era, she's basically going to say that she doesn't care about the last album and then it's not her anymore. Everybody who's a Miley Cyrus fan knows this. Every single era, she does the same shit. She does the same shit, and she's a Sagittarius and everything. So I think that that's funny. But let me know down below in the comments other artists who don't like their previous works. I think there's multiple reasons for this. Sometimes you just grow artistically past that point and it's like, it kind of is what it is. There's some Beyonce fans who feel like she doesn't care for her B-Day album and everything. So I don't know. I don't know about that. I know that she still loves her 4 album, but Beyonce really evolves artistically so much in every single album. You can kind of see that. Sometimes it's more so the album was something that the label made them do for sales and all those kind of things, and so that's why they're not really connected with it. Maybe they have bad memories with the album and everything, so there's that. I mean, Jessica Simpson, they basically made her be Britney Spears 2.0 and everything. So there was that. Christina's first album, they try to have her be Mariah and Whitney 2.0. Like, that's kind of what it was giving and everything. So I think that this is interesting because artistic growth and all those things, but albums that we love so much, the artist feeling disconnected from. But it is what it is. Mariah don't really go for Rainbow, but that is one of my favorite Mariah albums. Okay, you guys know I'll defend Rainbow all day, but let's continue that conversation in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, if you're watching this on TikTok, YouTube, you can give it a like, and that helps me out a lot in the algorithm, so I would appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to this channel for more, and you can hit the bell for notifications. On TikTok, you can follow this account as well. But thank you guys so much for watching.